No, there was little talk of the heavy rains as it was approaching, but the water rose so fast you began to hear about it very quickly. But there wasn't a great warning about the floods that were coming, and that's kind of the big part of the story. The fact that Germany's warning system failed so completely. Germany used in the 1990s, Germany had thousands of sirens that would go off when something like this happened, a flood, but most of those have been deactivated by now. Floods are quite rare in most of Germany. And but they also don't have an SMS system to warn people like so many countries do. I mean, United States, Bangladesh, countries all over the world have this. Germany is very worried about, they're not the fastest to switch to new technologies, and there's a big concerns about data protection. So there was no text sent to the residents to warn them. There was an app to warn people, but only 10 million Germans out of 80 million Germans have the app. So basically, the warnings did not reach people, and that's what a lot of the drama is about. So there's been a lot of criticism on the local politicians. Actually, one local politician is being investigated for negligent involuntary manslaughter or negligent homicide, because the local officials were apparently told by the German Weather Service at 3:30 p.m. that the flood was coming, and the residents were not told to evacuate until 11 p.m. And in this town, over 100 people died in 𝗯𝗹𝗺𝗺𝗺, excuse me.
So basically, we cannot blame the people, the victims of this particular incident.
No, the blame should not go to the residents and to the victims. Usually in all these cases, there are always a few people who may have seen the warnings and thought, oh, it's not a big deal, I don't need to evacuate. That happens every time. But the debate in Germany, it's not at all about the victim's fault. It's about the politicians. It's interesting. So the minister president of North Rhine-Westphalia, the biggest state where this happened, Armin Laschet, is running for chancellor. He's the candidate for Angela Merkel's party, the CDU. So he wants to run Germany now, and he appears to have done a very poor job managing this disaster in his own state. He went to visit some of the victims, and they were yelling at him in the streets and told him he was a complete failure because the warnings came too late. And then the aid, and I'm sure we'll talk about the aid fund, but the help for these people, they say it came too slowly, it was too bureaucratic. And there was a lot of solidarity with the victims. Germans donated over 350 million euros just online to help these people. So all of the anger is directed at the politicians.
So, Lord, do they have any case to make in court against the government once, the politicians were not able to let them know what would happen in the next few days? Can they put this case before court?
Yeah, so I have not heard about anyone suing the government or charging the government. The elections are the chance where the government will have to pay for what happened. But as I said, there is that one criminal case against the chief local official in 𝗯𝗹𝗺𝗺 and one of his employees. I can send you a link on that. So the chief officer of the district where 141 people died, his name is Mr. 𝗃𝗀𝗺. He said he wasn't to blame. He wasn't in town, and he says he delegated responsibility. But the locals say no alarm came, no one heard anything until 11 p.m. And by that time, the floods were there. There was 7 meters of water and people died. So I know there's one criminal investigation, and I think there's another criminal investigation in another town. So a few people could face criminal charges for this.